Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first Council Public Forum. This meeting is now called to order, and I would like to ask the City Clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for the record, all council members are here present.
I see Humbert Cabrera in the audience. Humbert, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I would love to. And I'll tell you what else.
Please don't take any. And after the Pledge of Allegiance, if you wouldn't mind just standing for a brief moment of silence.
Everybody, please stand, put your hand over your heart, and let me begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, first off, thank you all for coming tonight. This is really exciting. I'm glad you're all here. And we're going to start with public comment. So at this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, successor agency to the Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to items on tonight's agenda are to be taken at the time that the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, council, authority, and agency members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. I believe there were two sets of speaker cards distributed tonight. One speaker card type is for regular public comments that are not related to the public forum, and the other speaker card has a place for topic of discussion, and is intended for members of the public to speak on any topic they wish to bring up for discussion. I will entertain speaker cards for regular public comment first. Darrell?
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Bonnie Price, please step up to the podium.
Bonnie, welcome.
Hi, just made it in time. I wanted to know in advance, are there any proposals that we should be informed about before the public hearing on whatever people talk about? Is there any pending information or proposals that have been put off, like some that Ben Calascio has presented before?
Well, all the council members have the opportunity to present items, and so those who presented those items, they'll be heard tonight. If the council members didn't present any items, then they won't be heard. And in fact, as per our rules, we're not going to hear any new information from city council members unless they provided that information in advance. As for the public, they're open to say whatever they want.
Okay. The other thing is, I have two other things, and I'll say within the time limit, of course. The earlier meeting, the issue of marijuana in the city was discussed, and it seemed to me as if some folks were thinking that it's not settled science that marijuana does help people. Anecdotal evidence in Colorado shows that people are moving there with their kids to get help for seizures. Plus, a big pharmaceutical company is using some of the cannabis oil to create a new drug. So I wanted to get that straight. It is scientifically supported both by clinical use and by pharmaceutical companies buying into using it. And that doesn't contravene anything you did today, because what you were dealing with was illegal operations, which everyone once stopped.
I'll tell you that in my clinical practice, I would say exactly the opposite. I would say marijuana is a scourge that destroys lives. And like global warming, I think that just by saying the science is settled does not mean it's settled. So I think it's open for debate.
Well, all science is unsettled because there can always be somebody coming along and testing a new hypothesis.
True enough.
Yeah. And the final thing I wanted to know is there any length of time that you can keep a sign up for property sales? Because there's a sign at the corner of Wells and Wisconsin, DP Homes, that I think exceeds the temporary sign limit.
Let me see. Do you want to answer that now, or do you want to get back to her at some other time?
We can bring it up. Tony Shute, come to the microphone if you know the answer. If not, we'll get back to you.
Mayor and Council, anybody or developer who's got a housing product for sale, can keep those signs up for sale as long as they need to until all the homes are sold.
Thank you, Tony.
And Mayor, that's a matter of state law, and that's why they're allowed to be up.
Thank you, Councilor.
Subdivision developers have that right.
Oh, good, okay.
Sounds like you got a lot of pros weighing in on it, so
Well, that's what I needed to know, because I was very curious. Thank you.
thank you. Appreciate you bringing it up.
The next speaker, Mayor, is Ms. Naomi Swinford. Ms. Swinford, please. If you need assistance, we can bring the mic to you.
Hi, ma'am. Welcome.
I live at Lexington Senior Apartment Building over on, next door to the library, and we have a real drug problem over there. And even when they fix things in the apartments, they break in, they break it, they have to redo it. It's costing a lot of money to do that, too. My feeling is, too, we have a different breed of homelessness out here now than what we used to. And I would like to request also to have, when you have a family event like the farmer's market or a concert or anything, have a full-time security over there, because there's nothing, there's been switchblades, there's been fights, there's been guns, they've knocked me down. And I really feel strongly that it's taken the whole town to get me together to get to this point where I'm even going to stand up in front of everybody and do this. But I want some closure. We also need a stop sign over in front of Lexington as you cross over to the churches and the thrift store in that area, because there's the trees and the homeless block it. And then if also the traffic comes and goes and people are jaywalking, we really need a light there so that somebody would not get hurt. There are seniors or disabled or going to church children. And that's what my request is. And I would also like to say that I know that mixing the mental illness with drugs is not a very good thing. I think I know the money's hard around here, and it's taken this whole town to get me together to know what I need to do. I've had to have some very serious deaths lately, and friends to know that I know that God put me here for a reason, and I don't know what the whole thing is yet, but I'm going back to church, and I'm going to teach what I learned of the 3 years I've been here. And I want to thank the officers and paramedics and everyone who gave me the opportunity to learn CPR the other day. But I just want to say that you can't mix drugs with mental illness. And also you have to listen to people who are mentally ill too, who are not doing well with their medications, who they won't listen to you. And with my income, I want the future of our children to be here. I didn't know I couldn't have kids. At the doctors not wanting me to stay on things, and I would have been a bad mother as it turned out now. I think that I love kids so much. They're our future, our generation, and they're the ones who are going to be taking care of all of our places. So let's get busy and do something about everything we can do. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
There's no other speakers for this public speaker time, Mayor, but we have other speakers for later on the public forum.
Before we do that, I'd like to ask our city manager to introduce the format of the public forum.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. According to council protocol that you previously approved at an earlier meeting, the public will speak first. If it's a matter of questions, we have a lot of our senior staff here today. We will try to answer any questions we can. If we can't, we will report out at a later meeting. The council will do theirs second. There are 4 council items that are on this agenda from individual council members. There will be no decisions tonight. The council has directed staff to come back in about a month with all ideas further researched by staff and staff will then place that additional information in front of the city council, and at that point, the council will make a decision as to what ideas you wish to follow up on, which ideas you decline to follow up on, and some basic idea of priority at that time.
Thank you, Doug. Darrell, do we have any speaker cards for tonight's public forum?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have about 7 cards, and I'd like to start with Elaine Briggs. Ms. Briggs.
Hi, Ms. Briggs. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Elaine Briggs. I've come here with an idea. I've heard at many of the council meetings over the past weeks and months about our homeless, the trash that they leave. We've gone and picked up Wells Park. I'm trying to propose something that we could call Take Pride in Your City Week, that we could have out in the future at some point in time, in which we encourage residential homeowners to pick up the trash, clean the leaves off the sidewalk in front of their houses, cut back their vegetation, and perhaps the city could encourage places like Home Depot, Sears, Smart and Final, those places who sell brooms and rakes and hedge trimmers, to give a 10% discount to El Cajon residents who want to help clean up our city where we live. I appreciate the problems with the homeless and all of that trash, but there's a lot of us who don't live in those parts of the city where that is the biggest problem, and it seems like our neighborhoods are going to pot. Well, that's not the right word. They're not as eye-catching as they should be, and we're trying to increase property values here. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
The next speaker, Mayor, is Mohammed Tuama.
Hello, sir. Welcome back.
Good evening, council members and staff. My name is Mohammed Tuama. I'm an El Cajon resident since 2009, and I'm a director of the Newcomers Support and Development, nonprofit organization here in East County, working with the skilled newcomers and working on another program for civic engagement. Since I came to the United States, I saw that we really need to, as a newcomers, we need to engage with our local agencies, and we started a few programs. Especially for the last few years, we participated with the America on Main Street, and now we're participating with the Hunt Fest. Hopefully we have 60 volunteers too. And we're trying to, and we already actually participated at the Heartland Fire event, and we brought refugee youth, and it was a really great event. And hopefully in November, we're going to have a soccer match between refugee youth and the local law enforcement. So this is part of what we're trying to do to engage our refugee youth and refugee community. My goal is to create sense of belonging with the newcomers community, to actually feel pride of they live here, so they need to participate. We have a lot of ideas, and the city staff are really, really helpful. And like any idea, they take it seriously and they work with us and make it happen. So nothing that we actually came up with that was turned down. I really commend the city staff and city council. I know that you're always trying to get more ideas and things to engage the community. What I'm trying to propose here is to, as a nonprofit organization, which is local, working with only the residents of East County, if we can come up with programs or ideas that you can suggest, as your knowledge, I'm a newcomer, so you have more experience than I do, programs to engage our community more, and we're willing to do whatever that help our community and our city. So any ideas, we're ready to participate in. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it quite fair to pit the police against the against the refugees in soccer? It might be a rough game.
Yeah.
You guys,
We'll have something.
you guys better practice. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen them play soccer. The police are going to get creamed. believe me.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I think El Cajon Valley now has the best soccer team in Southern California. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a rigged system you're running. Okay, but that's okay. Well, thanks very much. Any questions, Council?
I have a question, but more for protocol. Morgan, are we not allowed to ask questions in this? Because
I don't think there are any rules, and Mayor can,
So-
the council can decide whether you should be questioning or just listening to them and then bring them back up and talk about them. I don't know what your plan was.
I'm comfortable with questions.
And so, since this isn't a city council meeting, and no votes are going to be taken, so we can respond to any audience member.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Next, Mayor, we have Dr. Hajar.
Doctor, welcome.
Thank you. This is my first time here. Thanks, everyone, for listening to us. And in God we trust, and hopefully, we move with doing some things. I think, the city is not very fair with the small businesses. I see, a lot of them, they have their permits delayed or, put obstacles to get things done. And when we started doing the, pledge to the flag, we said to treat everybody justly, but that's exactly the opposite what we do to small businesses. And 80% of El Cajon is small businesses. We treat the big businesses much better than we treat the small businesses. The future is for small businesses. Big businesses will go away. Google will take over. All these big businesses, you're not going to see them stay in the El Cajon. The other thing is about the homeless. I mean, is there any plans to reduce the number of them? They're getting more and more. I used to visit my family 15 years ago, and I see one or two maybe every 4 or 5 blocks. And now I see 5, 6 every block. I mean, they're just getting more and more in number. And they go and vandalize, places. They put threats on children. In businesses they cannot perform their work the day. So I don't know if there's any plans for the city of El Cajon to either reduce their numbers. You cannot chase them out because this is warm and they like to stay here around. And even getting hepatitis from them. And everybody knows this is a big problem in San Diego. So only San Diego, out of so many cities in the country, they have more problem with hepatitis A, and that's probably a public hazard. Thank you.
Is it Alicia? There's any questions for you? Questions? Steve?
Thank you for coming and sharing your experiences. The question for you, you mentioned you feel the city is unfair to small businesses. What could we learn from what you think we're doing wrong with small businesses?
I think when somebody comes to have a permit or do some remodeling, they see all these kinds of, obstacles. Are they real or not real? And just try to ease the regulations. And there are things, that are not written in stone, and these can be changed a little bit. And the city maybe needs to to listen to what those small businesses say and try to, promote them so that they can open it quickly, provide business, even provide new, job opportunities to city of El Cajon.
And on the homeless issue, are you aware, has the city done a good enough job to let you know the things that we are doing in terms of the housing navigator, rental assistance funds, an app for the homeless, reunification funds, no panhandling? Are you aware of those? Have we done a good enough job to let you know those exist?
Well, if that was the case, why I do see more increase in their numbers? Yeah, funds are available, but unfortunately, just giving money to these people is not the right way to do things. I think the most important thing is to rehabilitate them, try to get them out of this homeless situation they are, or they are forced to be in a drug. Some of them are mentally ill. A lot of them they are drug hooked. And these are the major things that people stay in the homeless situation.
Okay, thank you.
Ben?
Dr. Hajar, are you the same property owner?
Yes.
I talked to you on the phone?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for your input.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Humber Cabrera. Mr. Cabrera.
Hi, Humber. Welcome.
Thank you. Let's see. Thank you for having this forum. I think it's really important. IBC NFPA 101, NC 11.1.7.1. Handrails here are not legal. Section 110.9, your mandatory requirements for lighting is not legal. That area that person has right there for ADA requirements is not legal. The door in the front has to be 5 foot full of force, section 4.1.3, or 413.11, and you have 8 pounds. So we shouldn't even be in this area. We shouldn't be here. It's illegal. But thank goodness we have a council that believes in small businesses and trying to help small businesses. We also have leaders from the building department that are working hard and diligently to try to continue what Majid had started and others have started before them. Now, I've made many speeches and done a lot of work at the county and other building departments, but some of it is not trickling all the way down to the bottom. And small businesses are getting hurt. You can stop anybody from doing anything by stating some code. We have 1,500 new regulations every 2.5 years. That doesn't even include the additional regulations for Title 24, nor energy requirements, and also requirements for environmental. You guys are putting a huge burden on your building department, and it's with the same amount of staff. God bless them for even getting anything done. However, again, I could go into any building department, I could be the person on the other side of the counter, and I could stop any of you without even going into your front yard and find things that you're doing illegally according to the building code. Your lighting, your parking, the way your pervious, impervious nature of your driveway, whatever. The attitude at the building department at the very bottom needs to be, how can we help you? How can we serve you to get through this morass? Not how can we stop you and give you a code requirement that is going to delay you.
Questions? Howard, I just have one question. I'm assuming that what you're saying is that there's too much regulation coming from Sacramento and Washington,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Because none of those things you talked about were there are people here who are not architects, so I want to make sure they understand. Most of those things that you talked about, I think all of those things you talked about, were nothing that the city has any...
Most of them, but not all of them. You have height requirements and CUPs and things that you really shouldn't have in some places, and additional zoning variations would be very nice.
Well, you know what, we agree with you. Doug and I have had this conversation several times, and we have come to our planning department and our building department several years ago with the concept that we want your answer to be not no, but not yet. Let us help you get there. And we've endeavored to do that, and I know you know that's the case.
Oh, I do. I'm telling you this, Mayor, because I'll tell you the honest truth. As a designer, you're taught when you get out of school, never speak up and do what I'm doing, because that is going to hurt you on the next project. So every designer is going to come to you and to Doug and to everybody else and say, your city is the greatest. It's the most awesome. I'm getting a permit. It's fantastic. There's nobody that's going to have, there's maybe 2 or 3% of us that are going to have the guts to do what I'm doing right now.
No,
I'm here to help. I hope the city's here to help people too.
No, I appreciate it. I know you've got the heart of the city always.
Very much so.
And help us to get to where we want to go, because we're trying to get there.
Yeah, I know you have the right attitude. Some at the very bottom do not.
I'm a good friend of Humbert's, and we visit at Rotary a lot of times. And I know a short time ago he was saying, you know, it's taken me 6 months or a year and a half or something to get something done, and it just isn't getting done. And so I told him to call the building department and tell him that we talked about it, and I'm waiting to hear back from him what the problems are and what the obstacles are at the building department. Because I want to know so that I can go to the top and try and get it fixed. But anyway, I agree with you, Humbert. When I first got on the council many years ago, I said, well, we want to be a business-friendly city. And I think the suggestion that was made, how can we help you fix this, is the attitude that we need to have in all of our departments when somebody comes to us with a problem. Because we're here to help the public. We work for the public. We don't work for staff. We work for the public. And I appreciate your input and your guts to come up and stand in front of us and tell us about the problems. So, anyway, thank you very much.
I have pretty broad shoulders, but
We appreciate you, and you were, I don't know if everybody here knows, but a couple of years ago, you were Citizen of the Year for El Cajon, so.
thank you.
That's
It was an honor.
admirable thing.
I will add just that I did hear a previous speaker. There are certain situations where I could see how a small business would think, wow, that big business is getting their stuff right away. And honestly, when we do larger projects, it is a little bit easier. So something to think about.
Thanks for the input. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good job on the radio today.
Oh, thank you.
The next speaker, Mayor, is Mr. Joe Gonzanelli.
Joe, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here this evening, Mr. Mayor and Honorable City Council. And thanks for all you do. I know what a tough job you all have, and I know how hard you try to make us a better city. I'm a longtime resident, been here since 1970, and Bob McClellan's been a friend of my family going back to that time in the late 60s and 70s, and so we've all got a lot of roots around here. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. Humbert sent me the email today about tonight and asked me if I would come here. And not to beat a dead horse with the building department, I think they're limited, and I don't know what kind of flexibility they have. But I'm one of those small business people that Humbert talked about, and Humbert did our building. We just finished the Sizzler building, and it was a difficult project and a very expensive project. But things that we had to do that I know they're not city regulations, and I don't know if the city has flexibility to minimize the damage. We put a $20,000 dumpster cover up. We have limited funds. We're a small business. To make us put up a $20,000 dumpster cover, and I still don't see the value of that at all. When we wanted to paint the building, they said you gotta hire a big vacuum truck to come along to catch all of the water that comes off of that building. Well, what is it we're going to do? We're going to get the dust off of the building so the paint will stay on the building. Every time it rains, we go through those situations where water comes off the building, across the parking lot, into storm water. People don't seem to have common sense sometimes that try to force those kind of issues that are difficult and very, very expensive. The city really tried to work with us, but I think their hands are tied. And I don't know what flexibility. Dan and I, we went through leadership together the first time, and we had a lot of conversations that were very good conversations. And so anything I could do to encourage the city to say, what can we talk about to have a little bit of leeway on some of these things, as opposed to, no, that's what the regulation says, and that's what you have to do.
Well, Joe, this forum's for you. We have city staff here to answer those questions. If they're rhetorical, that's fine, but if not, I can get somebody up here to address both those issues.
I had a lot of conversations in the city, and so I think that's okay. I just wanted to express my opinion.
I appreciate it.
At this level, that people will try to say, I think we need to evaluate that and see how we can support to make it a little bit easier somehow.
I had a business owner come to me and said that he wanted to wash some urine off his front stoop, and the state of California threatened to sue him or give him a $70,000 fine for not creating a special basin underneath that's where we're going.
Yeah.
And, it's frustrating for every single one of us.
Yeah.
I agree.
And the only other comment I'd like to say is I went into the what was the blood bank in 2010, and we restored that building and put it back into nice condition. And I moved out recently, and we redid some of it for our escrow company. And I thought we would stay there. But the homeless problem has gotten so bad. Yeah. Today I had a conversation with our manager saying we have to leave. I mean, the people that walk up, the homeless people, in front of the windows with the girls inside and pull their zipper down and just urinate right on them. That's just horrible. Well, the people sleeping on our sidewalks around their building. I mean, the threats that I've had in the past, I don't know what the solution is. It's a big problem. I do like what the city of San Diego is doing. Put a roof over somebody's head, even if it's a tent. Let them get cleaned up. Have some laundry facilities. Give them an opportunity. It's got to be one way or the other. We're going to really try to help those people, or we're going to get real tough with those people. And I don't think there's any in between. But if we don't do it, my manager and I, we're leaving that location. We're going to move our escrow business out of either up in the Fletcher Hills or in La Mesa or in San Diego, Del Cerro area or somewhere, because we can't operate a business like that.
So, Joe, the way this is going to work is folks like you will make suggestions, and the staff will take that and bring it back to us. Is there any specific suggestion you'd like to make?
I've often thought if we could just provide some kind of a facility in, like behind where our office building is, in the industrial area, and have available a bed, a roof out of the cold and the rain, some kind of facilities where they can wash their clothes and get a haircut, bathroom facilities in there, and feed them a little bit, try to help them get back on their feet somehow. That would be probably somewhat inexpensive, I think, like San Diego, and if we don't make that commitment, I don't think we're going to do much to ever really resolve this problem.
Well,
and I think a lot of business people like myself, I've worked for years and years trying to help make the city better. Stoney and I and Jim Davis started the DARE program years ago. At my office, we started that. And this thing is still going on today as Stoney's kids. We want to help any way we can. But, you just can't leave it the way it is, status quo. It's not a solution.
Well, that's definitely your history in the city of being somebody who does things and gets things done. We appreciate that. I will encourage the staff to bring that back as a formal suggestion for us, and we will go from there.
Thank you very, very much.
Any other questions for Joe? Okay. Thanks. We're set, Joe. Thanks.
Mr. Jamie Frieders.
Mr. Frieders, welcome back.
Thank you. I wasn't sure what tonight's meeting actually curtailed, so I guess it's a freestyle. I wanted to thank everybody for voting on the ordinance changes today. I think it's going to make a huge difference for our city. And the only other thing I had to add on that was that obviously it's going to continue. The legalization of marijuana is going to happen. Like it was brought up, I let them go to La Mesa, let them go to Lemon Grove, wherever they need to go to get it. Due to the fact that I don't necessarily want my city to be responsible for things that can happen just because we sell marijuana to make money or whatever reason that we get involved in it. Let the surrounding cities, accept that moral responsibility for taking all that on. I'd just like to have our El Cajon city to be, drug-free, basically.
Do you have any specific suggestions you'd like to see us look at as a council?
Other than continue working on it. I mean, just don't let it, get pushed aside or have things change. Always moving forward with the issue.
I can tell you what, every time an aspect of this comes up, it will come before the council and we'll debate it.
I'll probably.
And you should come and be part of that debate.
One of your pains to come up and keep bringing it up if you start to go sideways. But I do appreciate what you've all done so far. So
you are doing your job as a citizen. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have questions, Steve?
Mr. Corey Covington.
Mr. Covington, welcome.
Hello. This is my first time doing this, so I read it in, I think, the county, online in the county paper, I guess.
Oh, we're glad you're here.
So I wasn't aware that I probably should be asking more questions, I think, or giving solutions. But I have some questions. I'm a homeowner here in town. I've been owning since 2011. So I basically had some questions. So anyway, my questions have to do, one with sewer and trash. I grew up in San Diego, central San Diego, originally southeast, over there by San Diego State later on. As I understand it, my parents were taxpayers, homeowners, business owners. Sewer and trash was paid out of property taxes. Once I bought a house out here, I was quite surprised to be getting bills, about bi-monthly from the sewer and about every quarter from the trash. And I'd like to know why that is out here in El Cajon, and why, since our property taxes are not the highest in the county, but certainly they are not the lowest, that is a separate bill and not included within our property taxes, because I have no idea. I think I once mentioned something to Ben about that, but since it's a form, and
I'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and let you answer all your questions. Staff's taking notes, and they'll answer them all before you step down tonight. Did you have any other questions?
Bonuses, I have a question. Last year, I understand that around this time, or a little bit after Christmas time, that the city employees received bonuses and went through all the departments. I thought that was quite generous. Honestly, it made me feel kind of like it sounded, and maybe I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but it reminded me of the city of Bell when they were having all that corruption up there. I always thought that bonuses were supposed to be applied to people in private industry, and if it was a public situation, it would go before the voters. So when I read that, I was quite confused, because I have never heard of that being done in any municipality. Not saying it hasn't been done, I've just never heard of it. So if somebody could explain that to me. But I'll go down the list here. 3, I had an issue that I needed to go deal with the police on the weekend. I needed to make a report. I was quite troubled that I couldn't even get inside the building. So I walk up to this glorious new, brand new, shiny building. I'm shaking the doors. I don't see anybody in the lobby. And I'm wondering, why can't I get inside? And then, you reach out, we're closed. Push the button. And I couldn't understand that. I would think that as a resident, as a tax-paying person for the city, we would have 24-hour access to the police. Now, I know we can call them. And no offense to any police around here. I'm not making it personal. Don't be like, who's the guy up there causing mess, right? But I'm serious. I really was kind of bothered that you couldn't even get inside the building, and that you had to go through a dispatcher. And I was wondering why that is, and if possibly that could change. I think since the citizens have paid for that building, or are paying for that building, should have access to it, and on the weekends also. So that's 3. I would like to know what the city is doing to attract new businesses. I'm aware of the 4-star hotel being built. Last time I spoke with somebody from the city, they mentioned to me about a Dunkin' Donuts or something coming to town, and that's all well and nice. But I was wondering, what is the city doing to bring in companies, to actually bring in careers to El Cajon? And I've never really heard anything about that. And, I try to keep my ear to the ground to the best I can, but I really haven't heard anything exciting. And I was hoping to hear something exciting from you here tonight. To address the gentleman who was here just before me with dispensary issues, I guess, coming to town. And I read also, I think recently, about some of your comments, Mayor Wells. As I understand it, it's a state law that has been passed, I think 215. And I didn't know a city in and of itself could turn its back on a state law, since El Cajon is part of California, not California being a part of El Cajon.
You bring up a lot of good questions. Let me answer some of your questions.
Please.
I'm going to let staff answer a couple of those questions. Doug, you'll see which ones I don't field. First off.
And is this the new city manager from Lemon Grove?
No, it's the good-looking one next to him.
Okay. I read about that also. I said try to keep my ear to the ground, so go ahead.
Now, contrary to, we didn't steal the manager from City.
Oh, no, it was a come-up, right?
It was perfectly legal. Now, let me answer a couple of questions.
Okay.
First off, you're right, the laws did change about marijuana, but marijuana is not legalized. You're allowed to have certain amounts of marijuana.
Yes.
You are not allowed to grow it. You're not allowed to buy it unless you get it through a medical marijuana dispensary.
Yes.
The law also allowed for the cities to decide for themselves whether or not they wanted marijuana dispensaries to be in their cities. Our city, like most of the cities in the county, have decided against it. Some cities, like La Mesa and San Diego and Lemon Grove, have decided to be involved in it. So it's kind of a civil government issue. It's the state of California. We are not flaunting the law in California. We are completely within the law, but we are deciding not to allow that business to be in our city.
Okay, let me ask you just one question regarding that.
I want to avoid getting into a debate.
Oh, no, I wasn't going to do that. I was just going to ask you, though, wouldn't that be something put before the voters?
Yeah, it is for the voters. They voted on the city council, and the city council made that decision.
So not public?
Well, it's a representative form of government, and your representatives made that decision. Certainly, we're having an election coming up.
That's fair. I wasn't aware of that, but okay.
Next, I want to address the bonus issue because I think that's more of a political issue than it is an administrative issue. The reason we allow for the bonuses, and believe me, we had many discussions about just what you said, about that it may come across as being unfair. Certainly, there are lots of people out there that aren't getting bonuses, and it's upsetting to some people. But you have to think about the entire history of El Cajon. Way back in 2008, we put the brakes on paying anybody extra. We were not giving raises. We were
cost of living.
We saw the recession coming. We didn't want to lay off police officers. We didn't want to lay off firefighters, and so we stopped hiring people. We stopped giving raises, and it got to a point where we were looking back on it last year and said, in some cases, we may actually have gone too far. We may have been so careful that we have put our employees in a position where they're far below where they should be in the pay scale compared to other people doing their jobs in other cities. And so at that point, to try to rectify that and to try to be fair with our employees, because we had some money in the budget to do this on a one-time basis, we decided to do it this one time. And that's why. So right or wrong, that's the reason.
So translation, a retroactive pay increase.
No, I really wouldn't call it a retroactive, because when you talk about a pay increase, that's something that goes on and on into perpetuity.
Yes.
This is a one-time bonus. It is what it is. And
I'm just posing the question.
Yeah. So now I want to let Doug answer the question about the police department not being open, and I'm sorry, what
sewer and trash. I got everything else.
Yeah, okay, you got it.
Sewer and trash.
Let me add one thing what the mayor said regarding the dispensaries. The public did vote on the law last November, and part of what they voted on in the state law is a provision to give local government the power to do what the city is doing. So the public did vote on that, to give local government that power.
Good point.
Sewer and trash bills. It is not within the city of San Diego. It shows up on the property tax bills, but it is not a part of the property tax. That's not correct. It just may look like it. It is additive to the property tax that they have decided to collect through the property tax bill process. That could be done here, but it's not done here. It is done just through a different system, through the separate billing. But you are, I promise you, being charged in the city of San Diego for separate trash and separate sewer, just like you are in every city in the whole area. They just put it, for what they consider to be convenience sake, on the property tax.
So, but you are saying that, so it is possible for the city of El Cajon to collect fees for these services similar to San Diego?
We do it. We just do it by separate billing. They collect their bills during the property tax time as well. That's all.
Okay.
But they're both additional over and above property tax.
Okay.
The police department, it's very common, at least within suburban communities, for the actual police building to be open only during business hours. It would be extraordinarily expensive for us, that's taxpayer expense, to have them open all throughout the night. We wouldn't get that much business during the night. It is an inconvenience at that point, there's no question about it, but it's pretty common practice within the suburbs to do it this way. But nevertheless, we'll report back to City Council if there's any options. And as far as the...
And excuse me, I just want to point to clarify. I wasn't saying evenings, but at least 8 to 5 during weekdays, or weekend daylight hours, right?
I'm saying during business hours, Monday through Friday, it is open. On weekends and nights, it's not. That's correct.
Okay.
And the final one, which is, I think, a much larger question, attracting businesses, I think the council and the city who are involved with business attraction will point to the fact that there's been more business growth in this city in the last 7 or 8 years than the previous 25.
Okay.
And it's not just the Marriott. We just approved a brand-new, it was kind of a financial agreement for the new Mercedes-Benz. We've had multiple new auto dealerships. Those are huge business in this town, always have been. We're about to reach an agreement for the largest music production group in the world, Live Nation, to reopen. That is huge
arts,
business.
right?
Yep, that's correct. If you look around our downtown, this wasn't true as recent as 5 years ago, there's almost no vacancies. There's just dozens and dozens of small businesses. I'll tell you, many of them, most of them, brought to us by our immigrant community from the Chaldeans. That's where so many of the new businesses are. There's almost no empty storefronts left in downtown. As far as the big industrial businesses, you're talking about jobs. So those basic core businesses that allow us to have retail and all that kind of thing. There actually has been a lot of individual business. One of the biggest ones, and Tony, just go ahead and shout out, Fox Struts has how many new jobs? 500? Okay. They just located about a year and a half ago. They continue to grow 500 new jobs, new headquarters here in El Cajon. GTN also approximately another. Taylor Guitars, of course, is a big one. But we never stop trying, so we never get satisfied. We never
or
think
high tech.
We never think we're done. Yeah. The East County has limited high-tech businesses in general. As you probably know, they have a tendency to locate in the Golden Triangle plus the some of the downtown areas out by UCSD. What the East County is really good at and what has been very successful is core manufacturing surrounding the airport area.
Right.
There's tons of really good high-paying jobs, machinist-type jobs, and that's just still been a specialty, not just of El Cajon, but of the Santee area as well as Lakeside. If you go out to past Interstate 8, 67, some of the huge buildings taking place there. El Cajon has by far more jobs than any other East County community. We're at about 37,000 jobs in the city right now. I'm going to look at Tony because we figured this about a year ago for a talk I was giving. I think within the past couple of years, we added up about, I don't want to exaggerate, was it about 4,000 new jobs in about a 7-year period? Am I right? Yeah.
And Doug,
it is as fast growing in job production as any city other than downtown. Downtown Mission Valley, Golden Triangle, they're gangbusters.
Okay.
They are.
Doug, don't forget, we've got the new community health clinic. We've got Borrego Healthcare, which sees over 60,000.
I knew I'd forget something.
60,000 patients a year. We've got the new Hilton Hotel, which is being built, the new Kaiser Hospital, which is on the way. Right. In fact, we just approved a sale to a building for a new cardiology office.
Yeah.
So it is coming.
Well, my concern is this. If you're in El Cajon, I moved out here, and quite often, if you want to make good money or better money, you got to go west. I don't understand that. I don't understand why you can't stay out here in the East, make a good living, live in a wonderful community with a wonderful police department, and stay out here versus getting on the 8 going down across town every morning. So I grew up here. I remember old El Cajon. I never thought I'd be a resident of New El Cajon years later, honestly. There's some very good things about the area. There's some things that I think are kind of dated.
Sir,
but there's a lot of potential.
Let me interrupt you. We got to let everybody
Okay,
everybody speak.
I know I'm past my 3 minutes.
But before that, I got one question for you.
Yes, sir.
What's that hat you're wearing?
I know. I know.
Come on,
Hey,
man.
Listen, I was trying to stay consistent with the blue. That's all.
Okay.
That's all this is about. I was going to put the red one on, but I'm trying to be consistent.
Bob has a question for
Yes,
you.
sir.
Yeah. They didn't mention that we have a new Jaguar Land Rover dealer coming in.
Yeah, all that stuff on Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Out over there, right?
And along with the Mercedes, that will bring in thousands, if not millions, of tax dollars to the city, because the sales tax is the biggest generator of tax that supports police,
Well, I'm
fire,
not just thinking
and other
about,
services.
funds or municipal funds for the city. I'm also thinking of individuals and livelihoods. Well, go ahead, sir. I'm
Those
sorry.
are also very high-paying jobs for the, ran a dealership for 50 years.
Okay.
And those are very high-paying jobs for a lot of salespeople, technicians, and people like that work in those dealerships are very high-paying jobs in a lot of cases. I know some of them go for $15,000, $20,000 a month.
Excuse me, may I ask you, did you say you used to run one?
Yes,
Model cars?
McClellan Buick in La Mesa.
My dad might have bought a car from me years
Well,
ago.
thank
That's
you.
why I just had a flashback.
Well, also-
Well, let me just, and I would just like to say one more thing, and I will part.
Okay.
And one more thing about downtown. Now, I know on Wednesdays, you got the Happy Days thing going on down there, the dragsters, all that good stuff, American Graffiti. I get it, right? But 2017, what are we doing to bring in some youth around here? Now, I'm 50, so I'm not talking about folks myself, right? I'm talking about younger folks. What are we doing to bring in, some diversity around here? I mean, street festivals, you got that thing happening Wednesday, that's a beautiful thing. It's traditional now, right? But anything new happening?
Live
Nation. Live Nation. will
Live
answer
Nation,
everything.
so eventually the performing arts and bringing in the plays and things?
Yeah,
That's
actually,
the answer to what you
Well,
just
that's actually more than just plays. A Live Nation, we should see up to 70 good music shows a year coming in
Okay.
as a result. That's going to bring. And you should go over to that young hip place Urban over there, and they left the vowel out. It was just UBRN, so you know it's hip.
Okay.
And go over there and have a pizza and a beer and see the youngsters. And thank you for coming, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
One more thing.
Moving on, Mayor.
A couple of years ago, we were going to put the sewer bills on the property taxes San Diego does, and we ran into a little bit of a public issue about it, and someday it may come back. I would like to see it. I suggested that probably 15 years ago. So, well, I didn't recommend the trash, but I did the sewer. So,
Thanks for such a good comments.
Next speaker, Mayor, is Mr. Chris Lepper. Lepper, please step up, sir.
Hi, Chris. Welcome.
So this is going to be a little bit out there, but bear with me. I'm really here to encourage us as believers, as Christians. Most of us in the council and on the staff are believers, and many of the believers, the Christians in this region, have voted for us. And so I just want to encourage us to be more Christian. We have In God We Trust up there, and that's wonderful. And as we do the Pledge of Allegiance, we are under God. And the Lord has taught us a prayer. And He says in the prayer, in the Lord's Prayer, He says, on earth as it is in heaven. This is a setup, guys. This is a setup by the Lord to bring His kingdom to earth. And I want to encourage us. This is not normal in a city council that someone will be sharing this, but I believe that separation of church and state is a doctrine of demons. I believe that God reigns over the whole earth. He reigns over the city, and He wants us to be bold and bring forth His goodness and His ways. And He wants us to come against evil, and He wants us to stop it. And I was so blessed, and this is for your encouragement, by the way. I'm not picking on anybody. I want to share a quote by Abraham Kuyper. He said, "There's not a square inch in the whole domain of our human existence over which Christ, who is sovereign over all, does not cry, 'Mine.'" He is reigning over the affairs of government. Why do I say this? Because you guys are His representatives in government. I lead a church, a congregation, and I encourage our community, I encourage our congregation to bring God's kingdom in every area of influence. And I want to encourage you guys to do the same and to do it without shame, to do it boldly. I know that you have to follow certain guidelines and laws, and you guys are really good at that. But I want to encourage you to be vigilant. I'm so proud of what you guys did with the marijuana. But you know what? We need to get rid of it as much as we possibly can, to as far as we can take it. It needs to be out of the city. I also want to talk about a few other things. You know, as I prayed about this, as a Christian, we believe that Jesus is King and that we live to please Him above everyone else. And I asked the Lord, what is not pleasing you in the city? One of them was marijuana. The other one was abortion. We should do everything in our power to get rid of abortion. God did not...
Chris, I have to ask you
to close
it up, because with the red lights on, I've got to be...
I know.
Fair.
Okay. So, I know it's not easy, but we are called to fulfill the King's pleasure. And if we all do our job and are faithful together, this city will be a city bringing life and blessing to all. For blessed is the city whose God is the Lord. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
The last speaker, Mayor, is Mr. Kevin Miller. Mr. Miller.
Kevin, welcome.
Hey, I'm back. I don't know if you paid that guy to ask you what was going on in the city about jobs and business and everything, but...
That worked out okay.
It worked out really, really well, because I know what's going on in the city and how many businesses and how many jobs are coming here. And it's because of the hard work of you guys. It really is, and especially of our city manager. But I also wanted to respond because Steve brought up some questions like when someone was asking about homelessness. And it's tough. This is a big problem. And when you were asking, are you aware of these things, you're really doing a lot. And you've taken a leadership position to try to go after the homelessness problem here. You know, and 250 people are on the homeless task force in 10 committees working very hard. Some bright, hard-working people are on this. I don't want Joe Garzanelli to go an inch out of El Cajon. I want him to be here. I want him to thrive. I want him to pay lots of taxes and make a ton of money and sell a lot of homes. So it's really important, and we understand that. So I co-chair a temporary housing committee that's on the task force. And I wanted to let you know one of the elements, and you've already funded, you know, your ECTLC and the expansion of ECTLC and other measures. I think you probably gave $170,000 to some other things that we brought forth that you funded. One of the things that my committee is working on, and I want you to look for it, is to put some day shelters and some temporary housing that's non-faith-based, so that people that don't want anything to do with the faith-based ECTLC component would feel comfortable and could get off the street. And I'm a pastor, and I think that we have to be broad in our solutions. But I want you to know that what we're trying to do is to put together some day shelters and some other programs where people won't congregate, like the huge one in San Diego. We're trying to put it in other parts of the county so that there are services that are available, like showers and meals and places just to get out of the weather and to be safe, and to really diversify it so that it's not just one collection of 2,000 homeless people coming. So when you see that, it's going to come before you, like other possible solutions have come from the ideas of the task force. We've looked at some, like, remember when we were looking at liquor stores that were bad players. You know, they weren't following the rules, and so there was a target on them. Well, there's some motels. There's some bad players that just aren't on the same page with trying to make El Cajon a better place. Those could be day shelters. But we're not trying to stuff thousands of people in them. We're trying to diversify it in Lakeside, and Santee, and Spring Valley, and La Mesa, so that we spread this out and provide the services so they have easy access.
Carol, let me ask you a direct question. Is there anything you would like to present as something that you'd like the staff to look into and bring back to the council as a solution?
It's going to be coming, and it's a little bit slower than some of the other suggestions that we've had, because some of these buildings cost $3 million. The county's got more money than they can count. And we're also looking at putting private funding into it as well, like you saw with ECTLC. That was city and business and the faith-based community working together for an excellent solution. So I'm just telling you, it's coming.
It's coming.
Keep your eyes on it, and I hope that you'll support it.
Thanks for all the hard work you do. I really appreciate it.
It's an honor to serve with you. I mean it.
Any questions for Kevin? Steve has a question for you.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, Mr. Gould.
What I'm seeing in the city of San Diego is they're putting up these tents, and the public's saying, we need a tent where we can consolidate a lot of these people and get them off the street into one area. And they're putting in these neighborhoods, and all of a sudden the neighbors are saying, well, wait a minute, not in my neighborhood.
Envy.
So I think that's one of the things we'll have to, as we look forward to, we have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
If we're going to look for day shelters, we're going to have to find places. It might have to be a compromise with the neighborhood, as you suggest. It might have to be an industrial area. We'll have to be creative.
Well, if we see a motel like we did with the previous location where ECTLC is, where the police were called out there more than any other place in the city, if we see other places like that, it seems like it will be an improvement. So we have to be creative, and there has to be compromise.
I agree.
And there has to be a long-term solution.
Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Any other questions for Kevin? Thank you for coming. Humbert, come on back up. You don't have a card, but, you're past Citizen of the Year, so, you can do whatever you want.
Thank you. I've been on the, actually, reunification task force, but not that one. Just a quick idea on that. Multiple zoning within the same lot lines for motels. So you can have like a series of row in the back that is zoned for single-family residential if they have a firewall in between, and the rest has to be hotel.
Oh, we'll send that to staff, and they'll bring it back to us. Thank you, Humbert. All right.
That's all the speakers we have for this round, Mr. Mayor. No other cards.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion then to close the public forum. Move to second, please vote.
The motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
All right, this time it is time for the members of the City Council to present their issues and items submitted prior to the meeting. I'll start with Councilmember Goebel and go ahead, Steve.
Mr. Mayor, members of the public, I have two items that I wanted to submit for consideration for the council's decision at a later date. The first one is we're kind of past the hot season, but so it would be more applicable to next summer season. And it was something that was really brought forth by the police officers of El Cajon. They're often viewed as reactive forces of good in the community, but this is a proactive thing that they brought to my attention, so I endorse their creativity in this. This is a campaign to provide heat warning signs regarding children and pets in cars. If an ambient temperature is between 72 and 96 degrees within an hour, the in-car temperature can rise 43 degrees. That's pretty high. And since 1998, there have been 738 child-related deaths due to be in a car. Half of those, a parent forgot the child was in the car. A quarter of those, the child got access to the car and locked themselves in. So I think some kind of an awareness campaign that would include temporary or seasonal signs. I'm not a fan of full-time, year-round signs. I think they lose their effectiveness if they're just up all the time. And perhaps a demonstration by some of the law enforcement or fire safety related to how hot it gets inside of a car, and Unfortunately, we had a tragic incident in the city, I believe, in July of 2013. A 4-month infant was forgotten in a car and passed away, sadly, where the temperature rose to more than 125 degrees in the car. So this issue has relevance to pets as well, to not be left behind during the hot summer season. So I'd like to test an awareness campaign. I believe the cost for the signage and things would be less than $1,000, and that is my first proposal.
Great. Any discussion? Sounds like a good one, Steve.
On to the next one?
On to the next one.
On to the next one.
You won. You can move forward, yeah.
The next one is, I think, one of the things that helps the public is access to city services in a way that is in a language spoken by the public. Today's public speaks by smartphone, and I'd like to see an app for the city services. That app could include reporting graffiti, taking picture of graffiti, taking picture of a shopping cart, illegal corner side signs, code violations such as trash in the public right-of-way, 72-hour parking violations such as cars being left behind, abandoned vehicles, illegal structures. Everything's done by smartphone nowadays. In 2016, the Pew Research Center said 88% of the public uses the internet, and 77% own a smartphone. So taking a picture and texting it to the city would seem to be a very public-friendly way to improve the appearance and operation of our city. That app, or whether it's an app or whether it is a mobile-friendly page on our existing website, I believe would cost somewhere between $5,000 to $10,000 and would allow the public quick access to report things rather than the current method.
Any questions? Steve, thank you very much. Okay. I have two short items. I do want to say first that when I was thinking about what I was going to bring up, of course my mind went to the big issues, homelessness, poverty, all of the things that we deal with on a regular basis. The truth is that the city, I think, has done a really good job of at least being in the process of addressing all these major issues. So I've come up with a couple of things that I think will improve the city, but I just want to acknowledge the fact that I know that there are larger issues at stake, but I think we're actually addressing all those, and at least most of them are in process. The first thing I would want to talk about was request staff to investigate appropriate locations in the city to expand our blinking yellow left-hand turn signals. The existing signals on Magnolia were placed there many years ago as a test and have been well received by the public. I have had several people ask me, why don't we increase the number of them throughout the city as to improve traffic flow? And I think that would be a positive thing. I'd like to hear what the staff has to say about it. It may be possible that it only works on Magnolia, and I'd like to understand more about the traffic engineering that goes along with that, but that's something I'd like to talk about. Any questions or concerns? And the other one's a little bit more pervasive, not very exciting, but probably very important. The city is gradually moving ahead with improved technologies, such as with live streaming the city council meetings. I think we need to continue to focus our technology to better benefit our citizens, businesses, and development communities. I am proposing a technology initiative to greatly expand the city's ability to allow the community to get information on their property, code enforcement activities, maps, zoning, past and present development activity, utilities, property information, and etc., directly off our website. I think one of our ultimate goals should be to create a completely paperless development process, as well as be able to provide as much information for homeowners and other cities on their properties as we can. Some cities are doing this. Actually, very few. We would be leading the way with this technology. It would not be cheap, and it may be too cost prohibitive to do it, but I think it's something we should look at. I think it would be taking a leadership role and providing the kind of information that people really are looking for and they really need, and I'd like to at least discuss it. Any thoughts or concerns? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the night. I do want to thank you very much for coming, taking the time to be part of your community. I think that this is extremely important. I really appreciate all the great questions from our friend in the back. And you can tip your Charger hat. Okay. Next meeting, I want to see a better hat. Listen, but again, that works. Thank you very much for coming. We are now at adjournment, the regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority Successor Agency, the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency, held this 10th day of October, 2017, is adjourned till Tuesday, October 24th, 2017 at 3 o'clock p.m. Thank you very much.